Okay, so good evening. I thank the Rotary Pune West Club for inviting me for today's presentation, today's meeting. Now, today is World Earth Day, and frankly speaking, I was not aware that there is a World Earth Day till Ms. Savita Dhanorkar. She contacted me and she said that we'd like to have your session on World Earth Day, that is 22nd of April. So I was not aware that there is a World Earth Day. And so when I started looking up World Earth Day, I came to know that the theme this year for World Earth Day is invest in your planet. So I was looking for a topic, what to present, and invest in the planet was a very apt topic, which I found to talk about today. So today I will narrate how my family and myself have interpreted the term invest in our planet. Let me start by introducing my family and myself to you all. So my name is Shivangi Datar, and I have been working with Immersion for the past almost 25 years. So I started in August 1997. So this is the 25th year that I'm working there. I'm married to Chandrasekhar Dapar. We both were born and brought up in urban spaces. Chandrasekhar was born and brought up in Pune, and I was born in Mumbai and have split time between Mumbai and Pune while growing up. We both have had a very typical middle-class upbringing. So our initial years have been spent in getting a decent education and then landing decent jobs in renowned organizations. So Chandrasekhar retired voluntarily in 2018, and I continue to work. We are parents to two grown-up boys. So Maitreya is an engineer and is currently pursuing his master's from Uppsala University in Sweden. And Atharva, the younger one, he has graduated in botany and he is pursuing master's in biodiversity from Pune University. He is an active Karyakarta at Jnana Prabodhini. Maitreya married his schoolmate Suruchi 2 years ago, almost 1.5 years ago, in 2020. Apart from the five of us, Tweety, Sobo, and Cherry, these are also part of our family, and they are cats. So Sobo officially moved out of our house last year and is currently residing with one of our neighbors, and we get regular updates from our neighbor about his well-being. Tweety and Cherry are very attached to the home, and they don't have any plans of moving out. Now, since the beginning of our shared journey, nature has been a very strong binding factor within our family, and our love for nature has taken different forms over the year. And this is essentially what I'll be presenting today. For near about 50 to 55% of our married life, we avidly pursued what we call as the typical urban dream. That is, get good education, bag jobs in esteemed organizations, work hard, have kids, ensure that the kids have a good education, and then invest wisely, and eventually spend whatever you have earned on, say, buying a home or go for shopping, then buy items of luxury, clothes, jewelry, go on vacations, fine dining, etc. And we have been doing exactly that for major part of our life. After a few years of our marriage, when we were able to afford home loan, we sat and discussed lots of options. There were trying periods when either one of us were very impatient, but we did not settle until our expectations were met. So I remember we house hunted for about 5 or 6 years, and eventually in 2001, there was a breakthrough. So we chipped in all our savings and to buy a small piece of land within the city limits, that is near MIT College, to build our own home. We both had common interest, which reflected in our choice. So our common wish for having a garden around the home won over all other amenities like gym, clubhouse, common garden, jogging track, which most people look for when buying their home. While designing our home, we insisted upon having more windows than walls and flexible arrangement over fixed bulky furniture. And it is precisely because of this that despite living in a populous area surrounded by tall buildings, we do not feel the need of having air conditioners and rarely require fans, even during the hot summers. Around the year 2010, we started exploring new avenues for investing our earnings. So this was a time when we were sold to the idea of a second home. One very popular norm then and even today is to buy a second flat and put it up for rent. So we again went on a house hunting spree. But then we took a break to really inspect what it is that we held dear to our hearts. So I expressed a very simple vision, that of a life post-retirement in a place tucked in the lap of nature, away from the city, away from the din of the city, and we shifted our focus to buying farmland instead. So we had already experienced the urban living. We had vacationed with our kids to locations in India and abroad, but had not particularly liked the experience of visiting places of tourist interest. What we really yearned for was a little adventure and a rustic living. So in 2013, after a few years of rigorous search, we bought 30 acres of land and built our second home in Mutsuri village in the Konkan region. Now, there were periods of doubt and uncertainty after we made our purchase of land, because had we followed the beaten track of buying a second flat and putting it up for rent, the public reaction, the reaction of the people who we are surrounded with, would have been that of congratulating us for a second investment, for a sound investment, and that the money we had put will be returned over time by the way of monthly rent that we will earn. But here we had bought a large piece of land and had not even given thought whether the money we spent was worth it. And believe it or not, people who were concerned with our decisions were not going to make a trip of some 300 kilometers to evaluate what it is that we had spent our money on. We were so overwhelmed. So what it really looked like was, if we had bought a second home, it would be, we invest something and over a period of time, the money grew in form of return on investment. Instead, what we started feeling was that, okay, we have spent a lot of money and eventually we are going to lose out all our investments. So that was a feeling of doubt we had in the initial phases. And we were so overwhelmed by the public reaction that we stopped thinking for a while. Now, after about a month of purchasing the land, we chanced upon an interview, that of actor Atul Kulkarni, which caught our attention and started a chain of actions for us. So in his interview, the actor spoke about various ecological problems that the humanity is facing at the time. Let me put forth a few facts and challenges about our planet, which I think most of us are aware of. I'm only recapping them here because that was essentially the first step in our actions, which were triggered by the interview. And that was to understand the extent of the ecological problems, and not only how we are affected by those problems, but how we are part of the problem. So bear with me if the next few slides feel like a lesson in EVS. Let us do some fact checks. The planet that we all share, our Earth, is our only source of air and water. All our food, even the packaged one, comes from the Earth, and so does the medicines that we need. Our planet also houses all the raw material we need for the production of man-made items. All said and done, it is still a finite system. Almost all the environmental challenges that the humanity is currently facing are the cascading effects of the human activity. Just to give you a simple example of the cascading effect of cutting down trees leads to disappearing forests, which in turn contributes to global warming. This is the major reason for species extinction. Trees are cut down, citing reason for growth and development, which in turn is the major reason for disappearing natural resources, and this contributes to growing pollution. So humans find themselves in a catch-22 situation. We are causing the issues and are also affected by the issues we caused in the first place. Around this time, we started reading a lot of material on ecology. This also led me to Ecological Society of Pune, and there I enrolled myself in a year-long diploma in sustainable development of natural resources and nature conservation. This course completely changed the way we looked at nature. I would like to share one thing that I learned in this course, that of the evolutionary timeline. Now, it is believed that the age of the Earth is around 4.5 billion years. It is very difficult to imagine what has happened on the Earth since her birth, as 4.5 billion years is a too large a scale for us to measure anything. So let's bring down the scale to a period of 1 year. So consider 1st of January 2021 as the day the Earth was born, and till the time that the early man or the Homo sapien arrived on the scene. So the Earth is born on 1st of January 2021. It is a hot, boiling planet hurtling through the space, held in orbit by the sun's gravitational force. As it moved around the sun, it gradually cooled. The cooling process took a few million years. So for the first 3 months, that is January to March, there is no life on Earth. As the Earth continued to cool, first forms of life appeared in the shallow waters. So that is somewhere around mid of April, and that is 3.5 billion years ago. There is still no land, so no life on land. Now around mid-November, the first forms of life started migrating from the shallow sea waters onto the land. But this is still not the life we know of as today. So that is very primitive life that was there. I have blown up the month of December a little bit because the activities that we can relate to started happening around the 3rd week of December. Now that is a time when birds, mammals, flowering plants, they appeared or they evolved. Another major event happened towards the mid or end of last week of December, and that is extinction of the dinosaurs. That was 65 million years ago. So early man or the Homo sapien originated somewhere around midnight of 31st of December, 2021. So till the dawn of 1st January 2022, modern man has not yet arrived on the scene. Whatever timeline I have discussed or I have opened up to you right now, I can say maybe the Industrial Revolution happened about 1 or 1.5 hours ago. And here we are today. So I was dazed to know this, that when I woke up from my daze, the stark reality of the current environmental state hit hard. So man had within minutes destroyed what had taken billions of years to form or come into existence. I wondered, was this a path of progress or self-destruction? As with each lecture, I came home and narrated this timeline to my husband. Another important concept I learned in this course was that about biodiversity. So in school, the food chain is taught in a very simplified manner. So for example, grasshopper feeds on grass, then frog feeds on the grasshopper, snake eats the frog, hawk eats the snake. Eventually, when the hawk dies, the fungus, it will decompose the hawk back to soil, and it is where the grass grows. So this cycle is very simply explained in school. However, I realized that the food chain is not very simple. It is something called as a trophic web. So all the living beings, including humans, are intricately woven in this web, which also meant that if I disturb one element of the trophic web, I am disturbing the entire web. To cite an example, in late 70s to about early 90s, bullfrogs were much in demand in educational institutes. Now, farmers were very happy to capture the bullfrogs and send them to the sell them to the educational institutes for a decent amount of money. Little did they expect that these seemingly unrelated actions would affect their family in any way. But over the years, the population of bullfrogs diminished, and acres of paddy were eaten by hordes of locusts who had nothing to fear once the frogs were all gone. No amounts of insecticides sprayed um, could help prevent the locust attack. So what I learned from this story was that we cannot think of one single element singularly. It is connected to many other creatures in ways and means we cannot predict and have no means of knowing. So my greatest takeaway from this story was that nature has a solution for every problem, or rather, in nature, nothing or no creature can assume the proportions of problem, because nature has devised multiple strategies to put controls in place. And this strategy is what we now know as biodiversity. Now, the major takeaways from the course of the ecological society was that natural resources are finite and precious. Most precious resource on the earth is not gold or diamond, but soil. And the key to sustaining life is biodiversity. As we studied more and more, we also found insights to manage problems at our level. So the simple insights provided by nature itself were conserve the natural resources, revive soil, and sustain biodiversity. Now, armed with this newfound information and the simple solutions, we set about applying it in our lives. Now, 9 years down the line, if people ask us why you bought the land and what was your return on investment, we have something to show them. So I will share with you all what return on investment we got for our investment. First, I'll share a few glimpses of our urban garden. Now, as I said before, nature is a very strong binding factor in our family, and every creature, great or small, is welcome in our home. Since the time we built our home, we had a garden around it. We have tended to it like our own child. Intuitively, since the beginning, we have steered clear of applying chemical fertilizers and pesticides. We were cautioned by experienced gardeners that this will have harmful effects on the garden, and that you so lovingly tended. Again, we were a bit uncertain about our decision, but decided to wait and watch. Here we remembered the famous quote, "Survival of the fittest" by Darwin. So I will share with you the results of following our instinct here. Our little urban garden started off as a landscaped garden, which we tended to lovingly. Inspired by the writings of Shrikant Ingalhallikar, we ignored the advice of experienced gardeners, and from day one have avoided use of any kinds of pesticides or inorganic fertilizers, consciously keeping the garden chemical-free. A course in orchard making at Bhaskar Save's farm further changed the way we looked at nature. And since then, we stopped pruning and sweeping the garden and have let nature take over. So as you can see, over the years, our little garden has taken the form of a mini forest. As with any forest, it may look unruly and unkempt, nevertheless, having a definite order of its own, and therefore teeming with life at any given time. We had made up our mind to keep our garden chemical-free, so fertilizers and pesticides were out from day one. Thus, in-house composting was a much-needed facility. Now, here you see the pit that we constructed for our composting needs. Now, this constructed pit is home to a variety of earthworms and other microorganisms. This pit digests our own kitchen refuse, the green waste from our garden, and the green waste from 15 other row houses in our society. During monsoon, this pit gets converted into a mini mango nursery, as many of the mango seeds disposed in this pit germinate into healthy saplings. Today, there is a banana sapling growing from a discarded banana plant stump. A few years ago, we observed numerous termites in our garden. Spraying termite resistant was never an option. On closer observation, we understood that termites feed on the dried stuff in the garden. Our friend from Ecological Society suggested that we keep a corner dedicated to termites in our garden. Fill it up with dry material from the garden. So 1 year post-Holi, we found a huge tree log discarded by the society as it was bought in excess. We immediately moved the log in our garden, especially for the termites. Now, 8 years down the line, this is what is left of the log. We also get free service from the termites, that of return or recycling the nutrients in the wood back to the garden. I often get queries from other enthusiastic gardeners regarding how to control pests. That has never been an issue in our city garden. Spraying pesticides on pests to get rid of the bugs is unnecessary in my opinion. As I mentioned before, in nature, there are controls put in place which any other creature does not, by which any other creature does not get a chance to grow beyond proportions and cause damage. Now, how do you attract birds to your garden? Feed them. We have observed that birds seldom feed on processed food. Some may develop a liking for a piece of roti or rice over time, but their first preference is food packaged as bugs and caterpillars or served in beautiful flower cups. Not only are birds a treat to the eyes and ears, but they are also natural pest control. Pests are never an issue in our urban garden. One practice that we have followed over the years in our garden is that we never have dedicated spaces for the plants. One will find any planter packed with numerous varieties of plants. This banana sapling growing in our terrace garden is not alone. There is turmeric, ginger, and ash gourd growing along with it. Some may say this is not correct, as other plants will eat away the nutrients meant for the banana sapling. Now, here again, we refer nature. In nature, plants are always competing for space and nutrients. However, they also collaborate and share. We only look for the indicators like whether the plant is healthy. If it is thriving, all is well. It may not bear fruit in the expected timeline that's set by the agriculture or horticultural norms, but this kind of arrangement is wonderful for life forms to survive and thrive. Now, in this next picture here, you see a planter which is packed again with variety of plants. There is amaranthus or lalmat, muskmelon, Malabar spinach, ambadi, and many other edible plants packed together, all thriving and creating wonderful green space, which is life promoter, and it also provides food for human beings. It also looks nice. One more thing to add is these gardens and combinations are ever changing. So next time we will try different permutations and combinations. There is no set rule or formula in our garden. Again, this is something that the experts will disapprove of. Now, over the years, we have observed increase in biodiversity in our garden. So whatever photographs you are seeing over here, these are all taken from our garden. Instead of dedicating the space for plants which are pleasing to humans, we introduce plants which are necessary for creating spaces for biodiversity to grow and thrive. If you visit our garden and pick up a handful of soil, it is guaranteed to be teeming with tiny life forms, which provide nutrients to all the plants and help keeping the plants disease-free. So our first return on investment is no applications of pesticides and free nutrients to all our plants. Even a deadly attack of aphids are easily controlled by ants who feed on aphids. Who introduced the ants there? Now that's $1 million question. In our experience, if you create the space, life finds its way automatically. Recently, we have started introducing butterfly host plants in a bid to create space for butterflies. With all the different life forms, does our garden have anything that interests us humans? The answer is yes, it does. We get decent harvest where chemical free, which are very chemical free and very healthy to eat. Another return on investment, fresh access to chemical free food. So our terrace garden functions like a tiny orchard and farm. Mind you, whatever harvest we get, we may not get, which it may not be sufficient for a family of say 5 or 6 people, but nevertheless, it is very exciting to see the growth of the plants or the vegetables that we can harvest over time. So I have just put in some photographs from the tab harvest of the terrace garden. So here you see I have harvested gurkan, suran, turmeric. Now these all grow under the tree. Now because of companionship, I can grow something above the soil also. So if I have something below the soil, these are the things which grow below the soil. I can plant something above the soil, maybe a chili plant or a papaya tree, something which can grow above the soil. Chilies, we got a beautiful harvest of chilies last year. Now these, the chili tree that you see here was grown from seeds that I got from one of the friends. So was the brinjal. So the brinjals also were born over here. I'll say the saplings were born over here. And I had a decent harvest of brinjals there. We also got 2 bunches of bananas and pineapple, 5 pineapples last year. And papayas we keep on getting in abundance. We have a drumstick tree in our garden and a small drumstick which grows on the terrace. The terrace also I could harvest 6 or 7 drumsticks this year. I usually am in a habit, if I find something sprouted, maybe an onion or garlic, I just take it to the garden and plant it. So the bunch of spring onion that you see here is all grown in my garden. So it's not, so I sprouted the onions, then it bears flowers, it bears seed. And then I planted those seeds and this is the outcome of that. So it took 5 or 6 months, but I got my own bunch of spring onions. And this is an eternal pot where I can harvest pudina or mint again and again. This I've been just maintaining for the past 3 or 4 years. We also have variety of flowers. So I have a small water body in our garden. So that's a lily pond. And so it is a place for multitude of guppy fish, snails, and frogs. And some of the fruit-bearing trees, like the guava, also has very beautiful flowers. So actually, we enjoy any and every flower that we get in our garden. We have very little rose bushes. So I'm not a very particular fan of roses. We prefer to have the gauthi gulab, which is from which gulkan is made. Now here I have captured the onion flower. So if you see, onion is a multiflora. So it's not a single flower, but a bunch of flowers. It's a bouquet of flowers in itself. So this is the bud from which the flowers or the buds are bursting out. This is a full-blown flower and bees love it. So you see here, this is the tiny bee called the trigona, and it pollinates these onion flowers. And we also have ornamental flowers like the gokarna, safa, terda. I have not put in all the pictures of the flowers here, but yes, seasonal flowers are there, perennial flowers are there. So we keep on getting a decent harvest of flowers also. Now this, we use our garden as a live observatory also. So any new insect, bug, fly that catches our attention, we can instantly pick a camera and click pictures of that and also find out more information about it. So these are various insects. All these pictures are from our garden. Yeah. The lockdown in 2020 provided a wonderful opportunity for us all, and we could spend some spare time watching and documenting birds which visited or lived in our garden. When we came to live here in 2004, that was the period when the bird population was dominated by sarunki. So there were only sarunki and some sparrows. But I'm happy to share with you all that we were able to document 35 different birds which visit our garden or stay in our garden. And that is another return on investment, I'll say. That is waking up to heavenly bird song every morning. Currently, for the past week or so, we have been observing the life cycle of the fantail flycatcher. So here you see, this is a nest and the parent is incubating the eggs. These are the new hatchlings. And here the parents are taking turns to feed the birds. Yeah. And now my son was capturing these pictures from the bedroom window. And so there was a moment when the parent became aware of the shutter noise, and immediately the parent, covered the babies with her body. So it was so exciting to see that they were so protective, and they are so meticulous about their babies. Today evening, when I returned from the office, I again went to the bedroom to see what the progress is. So today the nest is empty, but all these fledglings, because they don't have tails yet, they were all sitting on my bakul tree. So I was super excited to see them all huddling together over there. Now, unknowingly, we had put in practice the concept of biodiversity in our urban garden. So it was time to take this concept beyond our urban garden. So let us rewind a little. Let us go back to where I shared that, okay, we were sold to the idea of the second home. So we bought a land in Konkan in 2013, and we built our second home. So the moment we shared this with our friends and families, they all had suggestions for us, what to do with that land. And the top 3 suggestions were: have a mango or cashew plantation, develop the land for bungalow plots, and develop the land for ecotourism or agrotourism. So let me share some pictures from our forest. It was not a forest. I will not say we thought of calling it a forest then, but let me share some of the pictures. So these are from our land, which we purchased. And again, learning from the nature and our own experience, we started understanding that forests are spaces which are self-reliant and sustainable. No humans take care of the forest. Nobody sprays any pesticides or fertilizes the forest floor. But all the creatures, that the flora and the fauna, they are all thriving, they are all healthy, and they all play their roles in sustaining the environment. So we took time to roam around our purchased land and observed that it is nothing short of a forest. These photographs.
Rangi, can I interfere a bit?
Yes.
How much time will take more? About 10 minutes?
Yes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Have I run out of time? Okay, 10 more minutes, yeah? So we took time to roam around and observe nothing, that it was nothing short of a forest. So these photographs were taken on one rainy season, but even otherwise there is a dense cover. And this land is not a primary forest. So maybe a few generations ago it was cultivated, but now it is left to nature, and this is what nature has done. So, but however, we decided to introduce native varieties of plants, trees, shrubs, creatures in this area in a bit to increase the biodiversity of the region. And we studied the surroundings, decided upon which plants to introduce, not just in the forest, but also around our village home. So the village home garden in a few years will hopefully be packed by evergreen trees and flowering fruiting trees. We started planting trees in 2015 and till now have planted more than 1,000 trees. Now I'll just share a progression of one of the trees which we planted early into 2015. So this is a mahua sapling that we planted in 2015. And I have just photographed it 2 years or every 2 years So this is how big it has become in 2021. This chart summarizes the plantations in Konkan. So we have till now planted about 1,275 saplings, which include grass, climber, herbs, shrubs, trees, everything. And near our home, we have planted about 123 saplings. So the survival rate near our home is about 80%, and the survival rate in forest is about 15%. Now I'll share the original residents. So when we started visiting our forest, we heard stories about different animals, particularly the leopard visiting the wadi to snack on a dog or a cat. We were curious to know which animals did live in our forest, and we put in a couple of camera traps in 2017. So this is what the camera has picked up. So this is a herd of wild boars, or the randukkar. This is the bhekar, or the barking deer. These are Indian gaur, or gawa. This is a leopard, sarindar, or porcupine. This is the jungle foal, and we wake up to his sound every morning when we are in the village. Civet, oud manzar. This is wild dog, Ranputra, and Sasa. Now, for the past few years, we are trying our hand at farming. We don't have a farmland, but this is a bit to engage with the local people. So we have been growing our own turmeric and rice. This is not, I cannot compare the cost of the turmeric that we grow to the cost of a packet of turmeric, which I can buy, but I can vouch for the purity because it is fully grown on rainwater, no fertilizers added, no pesticides, nothing done on it. So it's a very pure harvest that we get. Same thing is with rice. So these are very small farming experiments that we keep on doing. Now, as our association grew with the forest, it also had a great impact on our lives. For instance, from the moment we stepped into our village home, we became aware that how in city, we take some things for granted. For example, we have a garbage collection system, but that is unheard of in our part of the village. So after every trip, we make it a point to bring back the plastic and non-biodegradables that we make back to the city. This has also persuaded us to review the choices that we make in our day-to-day lives. So we have gradually over the years changed from impulsive shoppers to need-based shoppers. On personal front, I have started adapting a nature-friendly lifestyle by changing personal habits. So I have totally given up soap, shampoo, and cosmetics and use natural cleansers, which I find in my own kitchen. I have given up for the past 7 years. I've given up sanitary napkins. I use cloth instead. Then I have switched to Indian dressing. So my wardrobe, Western attire is totally out. And my wardrobe is filled with cotton dresses and sarees. As most of the fabric that I use is cotton. So what I have done is I've started repurposing the old fabric to making it into napkins and kitchen towels. I have stopped buying store-bought gifts. I make my own gifts to give it to people. So if I know I have to go somewhere, I plan and make my own gifts. So these are some of the gifts which I make on my own. My most important innovation is making an all-natural rangoli color from fruits and flowers that are found in the garden. So the colors that you see here in this rangoli are totally chemical-free. They are made using rice and fruits or flowers extract. So this way I have avoided harmful chemicals in rangoli, and the rangoli that I lay at my door is completely safe for my hands as well as the environment. And last but not the least, I got an inspiration to pen down my experiences and publish my own blog. So these are all the returns that we got from the investment we made in the land. So no monetary returns. We have not got a single money back from what we have put in. But every time we make a visit, it is a very fulfilling and satisfying trip that we make. So with this, I will stop sharing. I'll stop the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shivangi, for such a wonderful experience of yours. I'm sure you we have some time for question answers if anybody has got any questions.
आपण घरी जेव्हा मला एक विचारायचं आहे, आपण घरी जेव्हा झाडं लावतो तेव्हा आपण पेस्टिसाइड्स न वापरता करणं, ह्याच्यामध्ये बरेचदा मग चांगली झाडं मरायला लागतात किंवा त्यांच्यावरती खूप कीड येते. कसं कंट्रोल करता तुम्ही? नाही होत?
नाही होत.
ट्राय करून बघायला पाहिजे असतं. कधी डेअरिंग होत नाही, म्हणजे असं वाटतं की झाड खराब व्हायला लागलंय, मावा आलाय, फुलं कीड यायला लागली.
माझ्याकडे मावा वगैरे येतो, आणि मावा इज ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ बायोडायव्हर्सिटी. त्यामुळे मावा ही येणार, पण बाकी कंट्रोल त्याला करायला इतके एलिमेंट्स असतात की त्या मावाचा तसा फरक नाही पडत. म्हणजे माझ्या एका वांग्याच्या रोपावरती मावा आला होता. आय जस्ट वेट अँड वॉच की काय होतं त्याच्यावर. आणि सगळ्यात बेस्ट असतं की तो जर मावा आला तर मे बी तुम्हाला तो नको असेल तर तेवढा ब्रांच फक्त कट करायची आणि कुठे असायचं, त्याच्यावरती औषध मारल्याने काय होतं की बाकीचे जे हे आहेत किडे की जे त्या माव्यावरती फीड करणार ते सुद्धा मारले जातात. सो यू आर नॉट जस्ट ट्राइंग टू कंट्रोल मावा, यू आर अवॉइडिंग दी अदर क्रीचर्स टू टेक ओव्हर.
हो, ही एकदम म्हणजे खूप छान म्हणजे थीम आहे विचार करण्याची, आणि आय थिंक वी शुड.
म्हणजे तुम्हाला असं अशी नीट नेटकी बाग अशी नाही दिसणार आमची, कारण ते नीट नेटकं आपल्याला जे अभिप्रेत असतं की हे नीट नेटकं म्हणजे किंवा आपलं घर आवरलेलं स्वच्छ असं असतं, बट दॅट मे नॉट बी व्हॉट द बायोडायव्हर्सिटी नीड्स, किंवा प्राण्यांना काय पाहिजे ते आपल्याला जे स्वच्छ अभिप्रेत आहे ते नाही येत असं.
ओके.
कारण औषधं मारून आपण त्या जमिनीमध्ये जे नैसर्गिक आहे ते आपण डिस्ट्रॉय करून टाकतो. त्याच्यावरती काही खूप चांगली पुस्तकं पण आहेत. म्हणजे एक जसं रेचल कार्सनचं एक खूप जुनं पुस्तक आहे सायलेंट स्प्रिंग म्हणून. कारण नॉट जस्ट दिस, म्हणजे तुम्ही जर ते बग्स मारायला, कारण बरेचदा कसं होतं की लोक झाड आजारी आहे आणि झाडावरती कुठले किडे मकोडे आहेत या दोन्हीला इक्वेट सेमच करतात. म्हणजे मावा हे आजारी आहे पण एखाद्या झाडाची पानं खाल्लेली आहेत असं जर दिसलं तर ते झाड आजारी नाही, दॅट इज ऍक्च्युअली होस्टिंग सम अदर क्रीचर. कारण बरेचदा असं होतं की ते फुलपाखराच्या आळ्या असतात किंवा फुलपाखराच्या ते कॅटरपिलर्स असतात आणि आपण औषधं मारली की ते मरून जाणार त्याच्यावर. त्यामुळे आणि हे फुलपाखरं खूप जास्त होऊ नयेत याच्यासाठी पक्षी असतात, सो पक्षी येऊन ते फुलपाखरं खाणार आहेत. त्यामुळे आपण जर ते बग्स मारण्यासाठी औषधं जर मारली तर ते औषध अनवधानाने त्या पक्षाच्या पोटातही जाणार आहे आणि इव्हेंच्युअली असेच जर औषध मारलेले किडे त्या पक्षांनी खाल्ले तर तो पक्षीही मरणार आहे. सो दिस इज द कॅस्केडिंग इफेक्ट ऑफ स्प्रेइंग अ पेस्टिसाइड और औषधं मारायचा हा हे म्हणजे साइड इफेक्ट आहे.
थँक्यू व्हेरी मच शिवांगी. खरोखर खूपच छान सोपं करून सांगितलं. आय थिंक मेनी ऑफ अस वुड रिअली लाईक टू विजिट युअर गार्डन. सो we will definitely get in touch with you and see if we can.
Oh, kadi, anytime.
Yeah. Now I request Vaijayanti to propose vote of thanks.
Okay, thanks Rita. So Datar madam, on behalf of Rotary Club, right, from our organizing committee, it gives me immense pleasure to deliver a vote of thanks for the lecture you have taken. So madam, thank you for your invaluable time and then sharing the inspirational thoughts. It was really nice to basically see how your journey happened, thinking on the investments, then to relate, like say we could all relate to it very well. The way the thinking goes, right? It is a typical middle class thinking, and then out of that thinking, what you have created, it's really amazing. So it was a good revision of history on World Earth's Day today. The forest, flora, fauna, the way you explain it, like urban garden, I am sure it is like really an inspiring story. And then many of us, right, we will start thinking on how we can basically at least do a part of this what you have talked today, and then implement it in our own homes, our own gardens, to make it a little bit chemical free, as Savita was also asking question in regard to that. आणि मॅडम तुम्ही म्हणालात की तुम्ही नोट्स रेफर कराल, पण लेट मी टेल यू दिस की तुमची शैली इतकी ओघवती आहे आणि सिंपल पॉइंट्स तुम्ही इतकी सोप्या भाषेत सगळ्यांना तुमचं प्रॅक्टिकल नॉलेज, राईट, देर इज लॉट ऑफ लर्निंग. तुम्ही इतक्या सोप्या भाषेत सांगितलं की म्हणजे 1 तास कसा गेला हे कळलं नाही, आणि त्याच्यातनं इतकं सारं प्रॅक्टिकल नॉलेज आणि त्याच्याबरोबर आधीचा विचार आणि मग नंतरचा सुधारलेला विचार तुम्ही इतक्या सोप्या भाषेत सांगितलात की या सगळ्या विषयाचा म्हणजे आम्हाला रिअली it was really treat, let me put it this way, it was really treat to go through your own experience. माझा एक शेवटचा प्रश्न आहे तुम्हाला. यू हॅव मेन्शन अबाउट युअर ब्लॉग्स, तर तुम्ही त्याची लिंक जर सगळ्यांबरोबर शेअर केली तर आय एम शुअर वी विल एन्जॉय रीडिंग इट, अँड देन देर विल बी अगेन लॉट ऑफ लर्निंग कमिंग आउट ऑफ इट. सो
मी करीन ब्लॉगची
तुम्ही
लिंक शेअर करते मी.
किंवा तुम्ही जरी सविताला व्हॉट्सअप केलं तरी चालेल, किंवा आता चॅट मध्ये शेअर केलं तरी चालेल.
हो हो पाठवते.
ठीक आहे. हा.
सविता मॅडमना पण पाठवते, कल्याणी
हो
मॅडम.
चालेल. हा चालेल
नंबर आहे.
सो वी कॅन सर्क्युलेट इट इन आवर क्लबच्या मेंबर्सना.
पाठवते. आणि एक मी फक्त एवढं सांगेन की म्हणजे आता ह्युमन सेंट्रिक सगळं जग झालेलं आहे, आणि बेसिकली बायोडायव्हर्सिटी जी आहे त्यामुळे आपल्याला असं वाटतं की हे किडे नको, हे नको, पण त्याच्याशिवाय देर इज नो लाईफ ऑन अर्थ. म्हणजे जर मधमाशा मरून गेल्या असं म्हणतात, इट्स नॉट जस्ट मधमाशा, बाकीचे इन्सेक्ट्स जर सगळे जर ते संपले तर ह्युमॅनिटी हॅज अ नो चान्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑन अर्थ. तर माझं म्हणणं असं आहे की आपल्या एंटरटेनमेंटसाठी किंवा आपल्या विरंगुळ्यासाठी इतक्या साऱ्या स्पेसेस आहेत, त्यामुळे आपल्याकडे जी स्पेस अवेलेबल आहे ती जर आपण या बायोडायव्हर्सिटीसाठी करून दिली उपलब्ध, तरी सुद्धा वी आर डुईंग सम लिटल सर्व्हिस, वी आर गिव्हिंग इट बॅक समथिंग टू द नेचर, असं मला वाटतं. सो आय थिंक म्हणजे आपली गार्डन सुद्धा आपला दृष्टिकोन थोडासा बदलणं गरजेचं आहे की सुंदर काय आहे, सुंदर कशाला म्हणायचं, हे थोडंसं वी विल हॅव टू रिथिंक.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you have put it very well. Okay, so thank you very much, madam, and then thank you everybody who basically invested this time. Today was real investment of the time, and then I am sure we will put the learnings in our day-to-day life.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you Vaiju, and once again thank you शिवांगी मॅडम फॉर आम्हाला म्हणजे जे तुम्ही आज ज्ञानामृत दिलेलं आहे ते खरोखरच जर इम्प्लिमेंट केलं थोड्या लोकांनी तरी इट विल मेक अ लॉट ऑफ डिफरन्स ऑन दिस अर्थ. सो लेट अस ट्राय टू प्रोपागेट दिस, अँड थँक यू वन्स अगेन. दिस मीटिंग इज कंक्लुडेड. थँक यू.
थँक्यू. छान झालं प्रेझेंटेशन.
खूपच छान झालं.
थँक्यू. बाय.
ओके चल.
Bye.
गुड नाईट.
Good night.